I'm showing you guys how to restore the black trim around the windows of your car that's been horribly damaged by the sun that should probably just be replaced the professional way. What's going on, guys? Luke here with Wilson Auto Detailing and Autodetailer.com. In the before video that you're looking at here, there is some black trim around the windows of this Sequoia that is not only chipping away where you see the exposed chrome underneath, but it's also representative of what a ton of detailers and just car owners see of the black trim that surrounds the windows that gets super degraded by dirt and the sun over like a 10-year period of time, and it really just needs to be replaced. And the big question is, even for detailers, by the way, how do you address this so that when you're finished with a detail, you don't have this eyesore of black trim that is just horrible to look at, bringing down the whole appearance? Most detailers don't know how to address this, and at most, they sort of just apply a degreaser and a really terribly abrasive scrub pad to try to like scratch it out. And even if you do that, you're left with like horrible scratches in the black trim, and it looks, in my opinion, worse than it even did before. I've got a pump sprayer full of water. I've got Green All, which is kind of this heavy-duty all-purpose cleaner from Superior Products, diluted about 10-to-1 or 15-to-1 in a small bottle, and I've got a magic eraser. I first soak the entire window in water, make sure all the black trim has got a ton of water on it. I then take the Green All diluted about, let's call it 15-to-1. I spray it all over that bottom section, and then I take my really wet magic eraser and I just start scrubbing back and forth. Why the magic eraser over a non-abrasive scrub pad? A magic eraser, we like to say, is kind of like an extremely high grit version of sandpaper, right? Maybe 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 grit. Well, when I use a non-abrasive scrub pad, you're left with a bunch of coarse scratches left over. What I want to do first, in addition to restoring as much as I can of that black trim, is actually scrape off all of the dirt and the surface oxidation that can be scraped off. But I don't want to do it with a non-abrasive scrub pad and get a bunch of really thick scratches in there. That's why the magic eraser is so appropriate for something like this. If you're going to do it by hand manually, a magic eraser makes a ton of sense. Now, after I finish scrubbing that bottom section, I rinse it off, I dry it with my air compressor and my towel, and you can come in to see just very quickly what it looks like after only doing that. And the point I want to make is that it already looks significantly better. The goal here is not perfection at all. It is simply to remove the terrible nature of what it looks like and restore it as much as it can be, because really this stuff just needs to be replaced. And because it's such a common problem, this is an easy way to fix it, even if you just wanted to stop here with no restoration, a magic eraser and a really good all-purpose cleaner. Now, next I'm moving to the side frame of the window, doing the same exact thing, spraying, scrubbing, and then mopping it up. I want to show you just very quickly the magic eraser itself. You can see what you are actually trying to do here is remove color, okay? So a lot of times that freaks us out as detailers, but if you pull off black, that's what you want to do. I'm trying to scrape off kind of like a planer would do with the top layer of wood. I want to scrape off that top layer. Now, the other thing to note here is to be careful with the painted surfaces in particular, not so much the window, but that side paint that I'm inevitably going to kind of overlap with my magic eraser, the white door. I want to be careful because it will abrade paint and you might have to come in and polish afterwards if you abrade that paint. So I'm being careful to make sure I'm just staying on the black trim area. Now, I want to mention here how amazing the black trim looks again just from doing that. And I'm looking at this with you guys, seeing the after result. What you'll notice is that in that lip on the side section, you still have a lot of what I would call that sunburned appearance, where you get a bunch of dirt, you get a bunch of heat, and then you add 10 years and you start getting that spotty, leopardy appearance. That's always going to be there, but it really is now just isolated to that inner lip where you're not going to see it from a distance, and even that area is super smoothed out at this point from the magic eraser, and so anything that is there, it's not raised and it's much harder to see. Now, finally, I'm going to repeat this exact same process on the top section. Spray, scrub, rinse it, and then mop it up. And you can see in the after look of that top section, again, what we've done is leveled things out to a high degree. You still see that sunburn kind of spotty appearance, but that's what we're looking for. We don't have a bunch of scratches. That's what I really want to highlight here. The magic eraser is the most logical thing to use here because it's going to even everything out. And even though, yes, we still have some dirt left over, I'd much rather have kind of an even spread or an even look of dirt rather than a bunch of scratches and the leftover oxidation. Now, I'm going to be taking this all one step further using my Flex PXE 80 3-inch polisher, and I'm going to be attaching the rotary tool to it because I'm actually going to take a really firm foam pad here. I'm going to attach it to my rotary tool, and I'm going to use the same chemical approach that I did before, but this time, rather than just my manual approach with a magic eraser, I'm going to introduce a tool because it's going to get a little bit more action done than I would be able to do by hand. So I'm spraying the Green All on the already wet area. I'm taking a really firm foam polishing pad, and by the way, this will absolutely tear up a polishing pad that you use, but that is actually by design. This is the only place I'm going to use it. It's not a soft or a medium cut. It is a firm cut, a heavy cut polishing pad. I want it to be a hard foam. Now, as you guys see me implement this strategy to the same areas I just addressed with my Magic Eraser, a couple notes. Number one, the reason why I'm using a really strong degreaser / all-purpose cleaner in green all rather than something like a polish is because when you're trying to restore this area, there's going to be a ton of polish that gets lodged into all the nooks and crannies and even down in the glass window that you're not going to be able to get out even with a pressure washer. It's a bad idea. Secondly, a lot of different polishes are just going to stain this area, and so I wouldn't do it. Thirdly, if I was going to use something other than a chemical, I would use something like a cleaner wax that doesn't have abrasives in it, but rather has a chemical polishing agent in it, because that could, assuming it doesn't stain, work really well to abrade and clean and polish and restore at the same time. That being said, this particular area of the car is such a nightmare that the reason why I like the chemical is because you get crazy cleaning power from the chemical, and then I just want my abrasion power to come from a Magic Eraser, or I want it to come from a tool like the rotary tool and a really firm polishing pad. I'm not trying to restore this to perfection. I'm trying to restore it so that it lifts the overall visual appeal of the entire detail when it's done, and you guys are about to see how much it actually does that. Now you can see in the after result that using the PXE80 rotary tool with the chemical just took everything we did with the Magic Eraser and it just took it a step further, right? That polishing pad, that really firm polishing pad is going to seriously scrape stuff off like the Magic Eraser does. That's why I want it to be really firm, and you can see how even the appearance is. It's from a distance, you can even see from a close distance in the GoPro, it just looks really, really good, and you don't have a bunch of polish that you have to clean up or stuffed into nooks and crannies, and it just looks really clean and almost kind of a matte finish, which is actually what we want. It started as more of a glossy, right, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now it's okay to have that matte finish. It actually fits the car, and because we only used a cleaner and we use that abrasion from the tool, we can get this really, really even approach. So I could stop here. I don't have to take this any further. This looks absolutely incredible, and in my opinion, this is like 10 times better than the other ways that detailers try to like scrape stuff off by hand on an area like this. But I'm gonna take things a step further, and I'm gonna use this product from NextZet. So it's made in Germany. This is basically a rubber trim conditioner, okay? And it's kind of like a glue stick. You actually apply it, it kind of dispenses some of the liquid inside of the container, and then you can simply even it out with the foam applicator on top of the tool itself. Now, a couple things here. Number one, this conditioning product is not necessarily a black trim restoration product. It is a conditioner. I'll come back to that in just a second. Secondly, the liquid absorbs really fast into that bottommost layer of the trim surrounding that bottom area of the window, because this area has been so damaged, so sunburned, that after I've cleaned it and you've ripped off that top layer, it is more porous than all of the other layers. I would call that a porous version of black trim. The rest of the area around the window is a non-porous or a smooth surface, which is why you see on the smooth surface, like on the side or on the top, the product kind of beads up and it doesn't really absorb, whereas on the bottom, it absorbs immediately. Now, what I'm going to do is let this conditioner sit and dry on its own. I'm not going to wipe it off yet, and I want to come in really quickly and show you guys after it's dried. Here's what it looks like on the bottommost portion, just like you would expect. Really porous, really gritty, so it absorbed really quickly, and we're kind of like back to black in this really matte way, not overly glossy, not dye, but we have kind of restored that bottom area. In addition to that, you can see on the non-porous area where it doesn't absorb immediately, you kind of have a bunch of like quote unquote water spots from the chemical because we didn't wipe it off. So what I'm going to come in and do now to finish everything is apply a little bit of Synthetic Express spray wax to a microfiber towel, and I'm just going to very quickly go over all of those non-porous areas, level out the product. That X-Wax is also going to clean up any just cleaning marks. Now I'm totally done, and I want to come in for the final result here in the studio because you guys can see why I want to use a product like this on the exterior trim when I'm finished with this. Yes, you can use something like Solution Finish, but in a scenario like this, it's actually rather cumbersome to try to use Solution Finish because a black trim restoration product or a dye works really well on faded trim. It gets a little weird when you're using it on top of faded trim that's also hyper damaged and oxidized and on non-porous trim like most of this trim is. It doesn't absorb really well like it does into, for example, the trim around a Jeep Wrangler that's super porous. On smooth trim, I don't really like using dye. I also don't want to use something like Cerakote Trim Restore because I'm around glass and it's really difficult to remove it from paint and glass and can just be really dangerous, and it doesn't settle evenly on non-porous trim. This is kind of the perfect happy medium for a situation like this. It's not a dye, it's not a back to black restore. It's designed to be a conditioner to treat areas areas like this before it gets to this point, but it works to condition them after they're cleaned and you pull the oxidation off, and it does go back to black a bit and looks really, really clean and really, really smooth. So absolutely incredible. I also want to pull the car out into the direct sun so you guys can see from a distance and close up what it looks like outside, both from the studio and in the sun, because now you guys are seeing why I like the approach that I took in this video. Rather than using a non-abrasive scrub pad, rather than putting solution finish or some sort of black trim restoration over it, you can take these small steps, and this is kind of why I think this is called detailing, right? It's because there's a lot of details involved in this process, but we just elevated all of that black trim to a whole new level without having to replace any of it. And no, we didn't fix it 100% at all, but from a distance, oh my gosh, it looks totally new, and we still keep that good matte appearance that honestly fits the car better. Nothing hyper glossy. I think this is 100% the way to go from a strategy and product perspective when you're trying to restore this area or fix this area as much as it can be, because it's such a common problem for detailers and such a common problem for any type of car owner. There you go, guys. If you want a full list of products and tools I use in my detailing business, go below and grab the Pro Detailing Toolbox at wilsonautodetailing.com, where I break down everything you need on a budget to get started. And if you want to get access to products like this that are more specific, I will of course link them up as well in the exact same place. And if you got value from this video and you like seeing unconventional products like this, then check out the video on screen where I show you the 7 products I stole from automatic car washes to speed me up, make me more money, and make me a much more effective detailer.